Hi, I'm Dr. Johnny Drain, food scientist, and today I'm going to be talking to Dr. David Quist, fungal scientist and co-founder of Umami. Hey David, how you doing?
Things are very well. Thanks for the invitation, Johnny. The Umami Information Center has been a great resource for my work, so I'm only too happy for the opportunity to contribute back to the series.
Brilliant. So today we're going to talk about umami, of course, and your work. So tell me, what do you do?
Yeah, so I work as a fungal biologist. I have a PhD in fungi. I'm also a researcher. My background comes mainly from the fungal world through ecology, but I've translated that into how fungi are used, particularly in food applications, as a backbone of what I do. So today I'm the scientific director of a little startup that uses fermentation to create new processes, ingredients for food products.
So I heard you were a ramen master before you started Nomi. Tell me about this ramen odyssey journey that you were on.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call myself a ramen master, but I've made a few bowls of ramen in my day. A lot of people do think of me as a chef, particularly here in Oslo, because they know me through my restaurant. So in 2019, I started a ramen restaurant called Rimnir, based here in Oslo, and where we developed a kind of what people are calling a Nordic style ramen. Our restaurant focuses on the parallel traditions between the Nordic gastronomic traditions and Japanese traditions for, say, curing and smoking and fermenting and preservation, and being able to explore how we can do this in ramen. I started the ramen because I love ramen, right? And there wasn't really good ramen in Oslo, but also ramen is a quintessential dish for exploring sustainability. Think of like the bones and the fatty meats and the fish bones that's used to make delicious broths, right? We can use all these so-called waste products or side products to be able to create delicious ramen. On the other end, we can take these things and make fermentable sauces, particularly from protein ingredients that give more umami, and play a role in elevating the ingredients that we put into our ramen, increasing its depth and complexity. So that's really where my journey with umami started, coming out of my interest and background working with fungi.
So give me a few examples of how you used to get umami into the broths, the dashi and the tari in your ramen shop. What ingredients were you using? How are you treating them? How are you teasing out all of this incredible, satiating umami?
Yeah, we did it a number of ways. One of the backbones that we used was the Koji fungus, right? This fungus that's used to make misos and soy sauce and sake and the like. And its ability to produce enzymes, particularly proteases, that break down proteins into umami-like substances, amino acid flavors, as a process of fermentation. So we could take I know Doug in an earlier part of the series talked about making a cuttlefish garum, and we make a squid garum, which is a delicious thing. It goes into a lot of different. You can take it in a lot of different directions. So we make like garums ferments based on the koji mold. Another thing we do is a lot of concentration. So we'll make a kombucha, distill that down, and to make into like a syrup, and use that as a flavoring agent. All the kind of richness and acidity and even some saltiness that comes from some of these ferments. That's just a couple of ways in which we use umami to create more harmony within the bowl of ramen.
Nice. So you said you were using the Koji fungus, to introduce umami into the ramen. Then, what was the thread that took you to creating Nomi? Did that naturally emerge from cooking and making ramen, or was there some other eureka moment that you had?
There was a eureka moment, actually. So in the process, and when I was working in the fermentation lab at our restaurant, we make this koji, as I mentioned, and we grow it on barley. So essentially, you're making what's almost kind of like a tempeh product. It's like the koji mold grown on the barley, and then kind of like a cake. And then we use that to make the misos and the garums and so forth. And one time, one of the batches of this koji mold got left out on the counter for a number of days. And it dried out. And I was like, oh man, we messed up this batch of koji. So I took it out, and it was like this large styrofoam brick, right? It was hard, but it was light, right? It was like styrofoam, but also brick-like. And I was like, wait a second, what if you could make a brick or styrofoam out of fungus? Like, couldn't that be like a more sustainable way of making these substances from plastics and other materials? And so it turns out actually you can. If you go on the internet and search for these things, you find out there's a lot of things that are being made from mycelium these days: car parts, packaging, new foods, protein alternatives. And it really got my inner fungus scientist stroked again to be able to explore new processes, new products that we could actually make from this fungal mycelium. So probably you do, but I don't know if all the audience knows what mycelium is. Mycelium is this thread-like body form of the fungus. It's not the mushroom, but it's the way that the fungus actually lives. It's, you might have seen this in the forest as like that cobwebby stuff growing under the leaf, or maybe you've seen it as that moldy stuff on bread, right? Or maybe on Camembert cheese, that white part on the outside, that's all mycelium. And it's that body form that we actually work with to be able to make sustainable foods or ingredients or new flavors through cultivating that fungal mycelium.
Are there any particular products that you can talk about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably it's no surprise that one of the first products I've been working on is to make a mycelium-based ramen topping for my restaurant, right? So we've been playing around with different kinds of, should it be like pork or should it be like chicken? Or should it be something completely new? Like, should we invent a whole new food category that doesn't exist today? You see, a lot of people are saying it doesn't have to look like chicken. It doesn't have to look like beef. I want something that's delicious and craveable on its own. So we're looking at what we might make, but we've been innovating on a new ramen topping that I'd love to introduce into my restaurant before too long.
So what I'm hearing that with your work in Nomi is that for you, science and gastronomy actually are intimately interlinked, and you have these organisms or these fungi that perhaps predominantly been eaten by people in various forms in various parts of the world, but now you're repurposing them to do other really useful things that have environmental impacts.
Areas of endless exploration and curiosity. You'll never learn everything you need to know about biology or everything we want to know about food. So they really are great spaces for exploring these traditions. Really, I see food science as really helping to bring to life in new ways ideas about deliciousness that goes on in gastronomy.
And so, I mean, we, at the risk of getting a bit nerdy, which I'm sure we'd both be very happy to do, can you, or are you exploring these sort of synergistic effects that we see within umami? So the glutamates and nucleotides, is that on your radar of things to explore?
Yeah, that also comes out of the backdrop of our restaurant. I mean, one of the things that we do is look at how we can find the right synergistic effects between different umami components to really elevate them in our ramen. And in a similar way, we're going to be looking as we formulate our food, or we look at the processes. Are we like, what levels of these amino-like umami substances are we producing, and how can we actually produce them in the right synergistic levels to be able to elevate that umami-like experience within the foods?
To circularity and deliciousness, David, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to sharing some ramen with you at some point in the future.
Always a pleasure. You're invited out to Oslo. We'll sit down for a bowl.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
All right, take care, man.
Cheers. Bye-bye.